Good morning, everybody. I'm Libby from Truly Myrtle, and this is my weekly podcast. I'm a knitwear designer based down here in New Zealand, and every week I have this podcast and it streams out on Facebook and on YouTube, and it is so nice to see people live. So come on in and leave me your comments. I'll wait a couple of minutes for people to join me. I chat about all sorts of things from knitting and making and, all that general stuff, but lots of making. Hi, everybody. So nice to see you. Come on in. Oh, I haven't got the chat open. Let me just open the chat and see what you're saying. It is a absolutely beautiful day here today. I woke up really early and I thought, it's quite foggy outside, and I was reluctant to move. And then it all just sort of lifted, and now we have brilliant blue skies. It's really warm. I just had this overwhelming urge to wear yellow because it felt like a spring yellow kind of a day. And I have my fun earrings that I picked up at market. I think it was last summer, actually. I picked them up at a market out here with lots of yellow. I just felt like yellow today, so I'm wearing yellow. Good morning, Libby Johnson. I don't know who that is. You have to add your name so I can see you. If you're calling from Facebook, unless you click the button, I don't know who it is. So you just have to say it. Some of you, I know who it is. I can just tell by the way you write. But others of you, just leave your name at the end of the Facebook chat. And YouTube, I can see your names really well. Hey, Sabrina, it feels like spring. It does. It finally feels like spring here. I'm particularly hot. I was knitting yesterday and I had to keep washing my hands because I was feeling so hot. But it definitely feels just lighter. The air feels lighter. It's so nice. Hey, Tamsin. Oh, you're blocking 2 shawls today. I hope it's sunny with you too. It's perfect blocking weather. Hey, Alexa, nice to see you. Well, that might be you, Sabrina. I'm not sure if it is. We've got the sun out as well, but it's not very hot. That could be Beck. I'm not sure. Oh, hi, Nancy. How are you? It's lovely to see you from Knit Sip Happy. Hi, Muriel. Lovely to see you too. So I have a new pattern to show you today. It was a pattern that it was released in Wardrobe Toolbox about this time last year, but earlier perhaps last year. And it's a perfect spring pattern. Oh, you've clicked that button so many times. I'm sorry, Terry. That's a real pain. Sorry about that. I don't know why it doesn't remember you. It's a perfect spring pattern. And it's spring. Today is spring. So it's a perfect day to give it to you today. It's full on autumn in Canada, says Nancy. Well, we're like the opposite then today because we're full on spring today. I might notice my irises are just about to bloom. The hydrangeas are all starting to cut. They're really leafy and green, and there's blossoms on. I've got a few of those little Japanese, flowering cherries, and they're all blossoming. One's blossomed, one's, it's just, we don't get a crazy, where I am, we don't get a really obvious burst of spring, just like we don't get a really obvious, descent into fall or autumn, because we have a lot of evergreen trees. So we don't have that obvious burst, but we do have, the freesias have come and gone, and the daffodils are sort of have been, and now we're getting into, I'm looking out my window there, and I've got some big red blooms all over the garage, and it's really pretty. It's starting to look really pretty. It's gorgeous in the wire wrapper. Hey from the UK. Hi from Colorado. You're knitting some socks while you watch. Brilliant. Hi, Joe. Good morning. You seem to go between spring, summer and winter down in North Otago, sometimes all in one day. There's a whole song about that, isn't there? 4 seasons in one day. I think it's about Melbourne, actually, isn't it? But we'll claim it. Glorious morning in the wire wrapper. Hi, Rebecca from Taupo. Oh, it's lovely to see you. You're recovering from a lurgy. Oh, I hope you're feeling better, Rebecca. It is a glorious spring day in Melbourne. Gorgeous spring day in Melbourne. You can do some spinning today, Rebecca. Oh, fantastic. So the pattern is my Jilly Socks. And those of you in Wardrobe Toolbox will know Jilly. These are the little Jilly Socks. They're really cute. They're just little cutie socks. They're not, you can make them long, of course, if you want to. But they're knitted from the toe up. And so you can just keep knitting longer. And they're really sweet. They've got this all over little lace pattern. and I even incorporated it into the heel, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the pattern in a minute. But they're called Jilly, and they're just those little cutie socks. You can wear them under your sneakers, or you can make them really short if you want. You could make them really shorty socks so that you just peep out of the top of your sneaker if you want, or if you've got Mary Janes or something, you can wear them with that. But they've been really popular. People have enjoyed making them. It's just a nice little simple lace to create the little lacy repeat, and I finished them with this little lacy cuff at the top. They're really cute. I'm pleased with them, and they're such pretty colors. They look a little darker on my screen, but it's got pops of, it's this lovely little sort of it's like a soft candy floss pink with little yellow, little gold and green little pops all the way through it. So they're really cute. So those are the Jilly Socks, and they will be out. Oh, they're not today. It's out tomorrow. They're out tomorrow. Keep an eye on my mini mag, because I'll have a discount code for you in the mini mag. But they'll come out tomorrow, so I'll get everything ready, and then they'll be up, and tomorrow you can grab them. I thought I'd show you a couple of things about them. So the first thing is, this is all the yarn I had left. I used this marmalade yarn, which I thought was so pretty. It's just really pretty. It's a lot lighter on there, you can see. It's all this motley little yarn. It's just a simple sock yarn. So it's merino nylon, and this was actually a one-of-a-kind colorway, but I reckon if you got hold of her and said, hey, you know those pink socks that are in Jilly Socks, she might be able to do you some the same. So she's Marmalade Yarn Company. She's a New Zealand dyer, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 400 grams. So they're just a good fingering weight yarn for socks. And I thought they're just cool to me in this little pretty lace pattern, that pretty sock. Sometimes it's nice to, I think it's nice to use these speckled yarns, and sometimes I'm just not sure what to knit with the speckled yarns, because the patterns can get really lost in them. But this is quite a light speckle, and the pattern is significant enough in texture that it still works really well with the speckled yarn. So, you know, sometimes they can get too speckly, or the pattern isn't quite distinct enough, but these ones matched each other quite well. So it's a nice example of something to do with a sort of a light speckle. But you might have yarn in your stash ready to go that you might want to think, oh yeah, these would be quite cute to do with my little yarn. Let's have a look at your messages. Hi Claire, it's a gorgeous spring day in the Manawatu. Nice to see you. Beautiful spring morning in Christchurch. My garden is glorious. Roses and irises blooming. My irises aren't quite out. Do you think irises like to be really cold in the winter? Do you think mine are just a little bit behind? Because you'll be a bit colder than me in the winter. Mine are just not quite out. They're almost out. In fact, I'd probably the next day or two they might be out, but they're not quite out. Hi from Scotland, Katie. Nice to see you. Yes, Joanne, you love my sock blockers. Me too. I'm going to talk to you about those too. You love this time of year, except for the wind blowing all the blossoms off. Terry, I'm going to touch all the wood now, because it has been windy here, but in most years the wind just goes crazy through where we have a lot of fruit trees. I guess you would call it an orchard, and decimates the blossoms. But this year, not so much. It hasn't been too well. I don't think it's been too bad. So I'm hoping we get some good plums, because usually the plums are out when it really rips through. Apples are a little later. Hey, yeah, it's you, Barbara. I thought it might be with all the roses. I'm using some marmalade yarn at the moment and a pair of socks for your hubby. Oh, I don't know who that is, but yeah, it's really, really pretty. I've got a couple of skeins of yarn from Marmalade Yarn Company, and she does really pretty yarn. Your irises are in full bloom, Claire. Oh, beautiful. Joe says, funnily enough, the song 4 Seasons in One Day, you know that one, was filmed in and around Oamaru. Oh, well, you know, it's Crowded House, so they did originally come from New Zealand. So I think, yeah, that's good. That's really cool, though, in Oamaru. Okay, so I've got a little list of things to talk to you about. Oh, yes. I was just going to tell you a bit about the pattern. So they are toe up. And so some of you, that might feel a little nerve-wracking. I've always done just top-down socks. They're my go-to. I like them. I like the fit of the heels for those. But what I've done is, I did this in Wardrobe Toolbox. I like to incorporate a bit of a lesson often into the patterns that I'm giving them. And so we did toes. So we looked at a couple of different ways of creating toe-up socks. In the pattern itself, I've given you a link to a tutorial showing you how to work Judy's Magic Cast On so that you can easily create this toe. It's a little bit fiddly right at the tip, at the top of the toe. Just getting started here at the top can just be a little bit of a fiddle. It's just a fiddle. It's not difficult. It's just little tiny needles and little tiny stitches and little tiny areas. But once you get past that and you're into this part of the toe, it's really fun to create. That's the shape of the toe. So I've done sort of it's a wedge toe really. I think we talked about a couple of different ways to cast on. I did Judy's for the pattern. We also looked at Turkish cast on, which is a nice, easy cast on to do for people if they just want to try something fresh. And we talked about different ways to create a shape of a toe that actually fits your toe. That was quite fun, actually, going through that and working out how you could use what we know about toe-up toes and what we'd learned to create the shape that worked for us. But we did that over there. But in the pattern, I did Judy's Magic Cast On. And so we cast on and we created this nice little wedge show. A wedge-shaped toe does seem to be, from my assessment of people talking to me, goodness me, all these things go up behind me. I don't know what happens in this this software now, but explosions and things happen at the back. The wedge toe seems to be one that people like. That they like the fit of on their foot. Some people really like a round toe, but other people really don't like a round toe. So I've experimented with different toes. I find that I must have fairly uniform feet, but I quite like a wedge toe, but I find the other ones are actually quite a nice fit on me as well. But yeah, so we did that, but you can of course just sub in the toe that you want. We worked up the foot, and what we did for this one is we actually increased for the gusset. So this is a gusset and heel flap. I love a top-down sock, gusset and heel flap. I find it the nicest fitting on my foot. I don't enjoy wearing a short row toe heel. It's just not. I always thought I had very flat feet, but actually I find something's going on for me around here. I think I have a higher instep than I thought, because I find those are quite tight through here when I do a short row. And this is by far my preferred way of doing a heel, with a gusset up and a heel flap. And I also find that it's super versatile. So if you have a higher instep, you can make your gusset higher. And if you have you want it shorter, you can make it shorter. You can be the boss of what happens with your heel when you're doing a heel flap and gusset, and you can do it toe up or top down. So I've used a heel flap and a gusset in this one, and the fit is good. The fit feels fantastic. So you work up your sock and you do increases. I don't know if you've made one of these before. You may well have. But you increase up the sock, and you increase on either side of your sock until you get to the point where you actually do your heel. So you do little short rows for the heel, and then you start working your flap and taking stitches away up the gusset and working the top of the sock. So that all sort of happens in one. Now what I've done, which is different to other socks, is I haven't done a distinct heel flap in terms of pattern. You can do a slip stitch heel flap. You can do all sorts of interesting stitches in the heel flaps. I have done the lace in the heel flap because, to my mind, the biggest wear that I have in shoes is actually here. I find I don't wear them a lot through here. Maybe you do, and in which case you might want to either add a little more strength through there, or I don't know. This I think is I like it, having the lace at the back of the heel. So for this pattern, we've done our gusset, And then our heel flap is actually worked in the lace of the sock. And I talked to you about, if you finish on this row, now go to this row. If you finished on this row, now go to this row, so that you'll have a nice cohesive heel that then flows nicely into the lace of the foot of your sock. So it all flows. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic fit. Now, if you want to make changes and you want to make your heel longer or shorter, you can do that. Generally, I've actually given you instructions in the pattern about exactly for this gusset and exactly for this heel and everything. But you could make yours taller by actually increasing a little bit more, and so that you actually have a higher, I'm going to show you on this one, it's a bit easy to show you. You actually keep, these are the increases for the gusset through here. So you just keep going and you increase till they're a little bit higher, and it will just make your gusset just a little bit higher. You actually would start it probably further down, and so that your increases would be higher before you hit where you hit your ankle part. But you can adjust that yourself if you want to. You either take them away or add them in. It's not too tricky. I've got a couple of things in here that I've linked to. So the first one is the cast on with that Judy's Magic cast on, and it's always nice to follow a video so you can see what's happening. And then I've given you an Icelandic bind off. Icelandic bind offs are quite fun, and it gives you a nice stretchy finish. You could do Jenny's cast off if you want to, bind off, which is nice and stretchy, but I've done an Icelandic bind off for this one, and it's just got this little cute lace in here at the top of the cuff, just to give you a little bit of a ribbed feel. It's got a little bit of ribbing, and then we go into that lace cuff, and it's just sort of flows in the pattern, and then you bind off with that Icelandic bind off, and I've given you a tutorial for that too. So there's a couple of tutorials to follow. I love these blockers. Someone gave me these foot blockers, which are sock blockers, which I actually really like sock blockers. You don't have to have them, but I actually really like them, and I do use them. Let me just have a look at your chat comments, and then I'll come back to my blockers. Oh, Terry said her irises have been out for the past 2 weeks over in the farmhouse, but it's very sheltered across the paddock. It must be the weather. It must be that they like cold weather. I had fabulous irises in our garden in the UK, in my garden in Cambridge. It was it was like a super long garden, like 90-foot garden. And it was divided into sections. People before us did it. And in the middle, it had you kind of walked around the circular, it's so narrow, like super narrow garden, but really long, those ones. And it had a veggie garden around the section, with a veggie garden around the side, and then it had a circle in the middle with a little sour cherry tree that I used to make jam off. It was absolutely divine. But underneath that it was encircled with irises. I loved that. It had little espaliered fruit trees and pergola things on either side. It was tiny, but it was so pretty. It was really pretty. They'd done a beautiful job. We just looked after it best we could. But yeah, the irises are in there, and they were magnificent. And so when I got back here, I was desperate to get more irises. But they definitely, I think they do like it over there. The other thing I had that you will also have down the south, or somewhere where it gets really cold, is, what are they called? Not dahlias, but dahlias, yes. But, those big blousy dinner plate flowers, peonies. Oh, I had the most stunning peonies. It's too hot up here to grow peonies. They love a cold winter, don't they? I haven't had peonies up here. Anyway, someone says the wind whipped all the flowers off the Michaelas. What are the Michaelas? I'm not sure what Michaelas are. Is that a type of plum or something? Dandelion on my lawn are in full bloom. Oh, fantastic, Tamsin. You have to make some tea. Dandelion root tea. Hi, Michelle. Nice to see you. It's a lovely spring morning on the west coast. Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, this is a nice toe shape. I do think so. I like this toe shape. It's a nice kind of wedgy toe. It's a good toe shape. Fits my feet nicely. Anyway, sock blockers. Someone gave me these, and they're really lovely, and they fit your socks, and they come in different sizes. This is 37 to a 38, which I'm 37 to 39. I'm actually a 38 or a 24 centimeter. That's European shoe sizes, and they just fit beautifully, and they're nicely aerated in the middle, so they dry. And there are obviously two. You can hang them if you want to, but I didn't always have these fancy sock blockers, and I've showed you my sock blockers in the past. these are my other sock blockers that Mr. Myrtle made me. So these are quite long sock blockers. You probably don't need them quite so long, but mine are. So I could do really knee highs if I wanted and block them on these. These are just made out of plywood. And what I did was I lay a sock. We had these plywood boards. The kids, you can see it's got paint all over them. The kids had, we had painting boards. We still have them, but Mr. Myrtle had made the kids a bunch of painting boards. So they were at the Steiner Kindy and they could do, wet on wet painting. And so we had these boards, and I thought I'm going to donate myself one of the boards of plywood, and I lay a sock on it and I drew around it, and that was the shape I got. So there's a sock on it, fits pretty well. And then he just cut it out with a jigsaw and then sanded it off on the edges for me so it wasn't rough. And that is obviously, I've said, yes, that is the right sock. Yes, that is the one. I obviously did a few duds. Yes, do that one. So I use these for years and years and years, but, they're definitely rustic, shall we say. So someone really kindly gave me those other sock blockers the other year. Now, when I look at them, what I probably would do if I was doing these again was I might fill out the calf a little bit more, because this one definitely has a fuller calf. And if I was going to do longer socks, I might block them a little fuller on the calf. So there we are. That's something I've learned. And the shape is a little different too. This one is much more like Christmas stocking shape. Maybe this is more Christmas stocking shape. But it works beautifully well, so you can make them yourself. And then recently, someone very lovely, I think you're watching actually, Joe, gave me this. And this is I had my eye on these, and then I was sent this as a little gift, and I'm pretty stoked to get it. So this is a little tool that you can use. I mean, it's got all sorts of things on it. It's got the wraps per inch around this part here. It's got a little place for you to measure your gauge, and then it's got little holes for you to do your needles. So it's like an all-in-one tool for your hand-spun, homemade socks. You could do all of these things with this little tool, and you can use this to measure how long your sock needs to be before you start the heel. So I'll show you this one on it. It's going to be hard to see because it's going to slip in, but basically you can slip this into it and then measure up. If I go, it's going to be hard to show you. When you get to the right length before you want to start these decreases here, so when you get to about here, you need to stop this sock, and you can actually pop that in. If you know the measurement that you have to knit to, you pop it in, and when you get to that measurement, I'd stretch it out slightly so that you have a little bit of negative ease in your sock so it fits you nicely, not too much, but a little bit. When you get to that length, you stop, and off you go, and you do the next part of your sock. So there are all sorts of calculations you can do to work out how long to knit your sock for, so you can work out what to have on this little blocker. You could also make one yourself. I know Claire, who's in here, has actually made one out of plywood as well, and she just had that her husband just cut her that shape, and then she drew the measurements on it. This is only centimeters, so if you like inches, you'll want to put inches on it too. There are various calculations to know, when do I start this gusset? Like, when am I supposed to be starting this gusset? Because if you can see, I knitted let's show you on the side. I knitted straight up to here, and then these are all increases for my sock, and then I knitted this little heel flap, that's the toe. Then I knitted the heel flap, which is that part there. Not the heel flap, the heel turn, and then you go back into knitting in the round, decreasing away your gusset stitches up the side here and getting back into the round. It sounds like super complicated, but when you're there, it's actually really easy to do it. It all makes sense when you're there. And you watch that turn happen over the heel. But essentially, what you need to do is you need to work out how many, if you're going to make adjustments. I've actually, in the pattern, told you, knit, what have I said? I'll tell you exactly what I said. I said, repeat the last round, so that when you're working the next, the rows of the chart, you just keep working up this part of this foot, and I've given you the measurements. I've said do it until your sock foot measures, and then I've given you the measurements for each of the sizes less than the desired foot length. So for example, this size, which is a medium size, I knitted until it was 3.75 inches or 9.5 centimeters less than the foot size I wanted. And then I make sure I'm ending on the right chart row or an even numbered row. And then I go into working the gusset. And so I've told you, I've worked out for you already, how long is this gusset and how long is this heel, so that you know when you finish, that sock is going to fit you. It can be a little bit jiggery pokery to figure it out. And actually, you might find that you want to sit down and actually work it out exactly for you, because you only have to do it one time. And then after that, you never have to work it out again. You know that I always have to start my socks, if you like the style, I always start my gusset here, that part, when my sock is this long. When that part of my sock is this long, I always start my gusset. And that's where this little tool is quite handy, because you only have to work it out one time. So if you are going to follow the pattern, you could just do what I've done. You could work out if the two measurements you've got add up to the desired length, assuming your gauge is right for your row gauge. But if you do want to make changes, just make a note of what your row gauge is. You know that for every increase you do up your gusset, that takes 2 rows, and you'll do an increase on either side. So that takes 2 rows. So you work out, how many increases am I going to do for my gusset? How many rows is that? What is that in inches or centimeters for my gauge? And then how many rows is it going to take to do this heel turn? Because I've got a certain number of stitches in my heel, just a few stitches in the back there for my heel. And how many rows is it going to take to go back and forth? You could just look at the pattern and do what the pattern says for that point. How many rows did that take? Oh, okay. Well, how many rows is that? So how much length is that in my gauge? Oh, okay. I'll add that to the amount for the gusset, and that tells me how many rows I'm going to use and how much length I'm going to use for my sock once I hit that point. It's you could just follow the pattern, or you could work it out yourself. But once you've done it yourself and you know exactly what kind of size gusset you like, and you know exactly how long you like your socks, don't forget, make your sock, not your toe, make your sock part just a little bit shorter on yourself so that it fits you nicely. Otherwise it'll get really sloppy. You just want a little bit of negative ease. You don't really want negative ease in the toe. You quite like your toe to fit over your toe. Well, you don't really want to pull there. So you want a toe that fits you, and then a little bit of negative ease in the sock itself. And that will give you a nice fit that won't just, you won't walk out of it when you're walking in your little cute sneakers with your socks on. You won't walk straight out of it. So you can work all that out yourself if you wanted. I've just lost my bit of paper that told me what I wanted to tell you. It's fallen on the floor. But I thought that was an excellent, useful tool to use for that. And if you want to make one yourself, you can. I do love toe-up socks. I've got some DK yarn over there that I want to do a pair of toe-up socks for, actually. It's very, very pretty, and I am quite looking forward to getting around to doing that. And yeah, I think I might be a toe-up. I think I might do a few more toe-up socks for patterns because they're fun. I've got a few top-downs already. The blue sock that I just showed you, that's Footsie. That's one of my more popular socks. This one and Lodestone have been really popular. This is a good sock. It's a good unisex sock, actually. That one is a top down, so if you're nervous about toe up. But tomorrow, Jilly pattern is out, which is this cute little sock. That one is out. If you're on my mini mag list, I'll send you a message. I'll send you an email and I'll give you all the details, and there'll be a discount code in there. For those of you inside Wardrobe Toolbox, you already have access to this sock, and that is permanently on a discount for you. So you'll get it cheapest there if you're in Wardrobe Toolbox. So grab it there. But for those of you who aren't and want to grab it, I'll tell you about it tomorrow. I was lucky enough, Barbara says I was lucky enough to get one of those sock measuring gadgets as part of my yarn swap gift. Oh, Barbara, that's cool. Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to using it for myself, and I haven't used it yet, so I am really looking forward to using it. It's also got on here how to do a Kitchener stitch, which is always good to remember because I always have to remind myself how to do it every time I come to do it. So there we are. It's written on there. This one is from Donnybrook Designs NZ at the end. So it's a New Zealand based company, but I know that there are, I know you can get them all over the place, these different shapes. All right, lovely people. Well, it's a beautiful day. I'm enjoying it so far. I've been for a big walk, and My knee's been bothering me a little bit, but it seems okay today. It seems okay. So I'm going to get cracking, do some more work, get ready for this pattern to come out for you tomorrow. I hope you have lots and lots of knitting that you've got on your needles. It's a long weekend this weekend here in New Zealand. It's our Labour weekend, so Monday is a holiday. So I hope you have a fabulous weekend. I hope you get a bit of a chance to get some time out and do some knitting and just, escape the world for a minute and, look after you. All right, everybody, I will catch you later. You prefer tie-up socks too, Kim? Yeah, I reckon it's fun. All right, everybody, I will catch you later. Have a really lovely week, and I will see you next Thursday for another chat. Bye, everybody. See ya.